All right, welcome everyone. This training session is designed specifically for you, for teachers and educators. Today we're going to tackle a term you hear all the time, critical thinking. But look, our goal here is to move way beyond the buzzword. In this explainer, we're going to give you a real, concrete framework you can actually use to build critical thinking in your classroom starting like tomorrow. Okay, let's get into it.
So, to really get what we're up against, let's start with a story. One that I bet is going to feel a little too familiar. It's the perfect snapshot of how misinformation can just take off when critical thinking isn't in the picture and how it can show up when you least expect it.
A teacher I know tells me this story about his student, Xander. He comes into class one morning just totally distraught. The teacher asks him, "What's wrong?" And Xander just cries out that his favorite candy, Skittles, is being banned. Why? Because he saw a video about it on TikTok. That was it. His entire emotional reaction was based on this one single post he hadn't even checked.
Okay, so Xander's reaction. It's a textbook case of what we're looking at here, cognitive bias. These are basically mental shortcuts our brains take to make sense of the world fast, but they can really stop us from seeing the whole picture. He was anchored to that first thing he saw on TikTok, and his emotions just shut down any urge to ask, wait a minute, is this actually true? This is that uncritical thinking we see all the time.
Look, Xander's story, it's not just about a kid and his favorite candy, right? It points to a much, much bigger problem that teachers everywhere are dealing with. There's this massive disconnect between how much we say we value critical thinking and how much it's actually being taught in our schools.
Get this, a huge survey of university professors found that almost 82% of them say teaching critical thinking is an essential goal for their students. We all get it. We know they need this skill to survive and thrive out there. Right? That's the million-dollar question. If we all agree it's so important, why aren't we seeing the results? Well, the data shows this fascinating and honestly pretty frustrating disconnect. And boom, here's the heart of the problem. That very same survey found that almost 68% of faculty feel like they need to basically spoon-feed all the information to students just so they can learn. So on one hand, we're saying, hey, think for yourselves. But on the other, we're feeling this intense pressure to just hand them all the answers. That contradiction, man, that's a huge roadblock.
And look, this isn't just a feeling in our gut. Teachers are reporting real, concrete barriers. We're all just slammed for time, right? Trying to cram in all the required content. A lot of us never got specific training on how to teach this stuff. And let's be real, sometimes the students push back. They've been trained to just want the right answer. These are the things we're all dealing with every single day.
So, if these challenges are hitting home for you and you're here for some real practical strategies, like the ones we're about to get into, go ahead and hit that follow or subscribe button on this channel. We're all about giving you clear, useful tools you can actually use. Okay, so we've laid out the problem, we see the disconnect, we feel the barriers. Here's the most important part. We can't just sit back and wait for our students to figure it out. The change, it has to start with us, with the educator in the room. It's the big question. With so many challenges, what's the actual first step we can take to build a classroom culture where critical thinking can really happen? The answer is simple, but it is so powerful. It starts right here, with you. It starts with our own mindset and our own practices. We're the ones who build the classroom culture, and any real change begins with how we think about our own thinking.
And the tool for this is something called metacognition, which is really just a fancy way of saying thinking about your own thinking. Before we can ask our students to question their assumptions, we have to question ours. Think back to the teacher with the Skittles story. His first gut reaction was to just dismiss Xander's panic as silly, but he used metacognition. He paused, he questioned his own reaction, and he turned it into a teachable moment. That's the first step.
All right, so we've got our own mindset in check. Now what? What do we actually do in the classroom? Let's get into the toolkit. Here are 2 super powerful, research-backed strategies you can start using right away. Strategy number 1 is all about flipping the script. Instead of a classroom that runs on the teacher's questions, we have to create a space where students learn how to ask, analyze, and prioritize their own questions. This puts them in the driver's seat of their own learning. It changes everything.
There's this brilliant, structured way to do this called the question formulation technique, or QFT. You start with what's called a question focus. It could be an image, a quote, anything that sparks some curiosity. And from there, students follow these really clear steps to generate, improve, and then pick their most important questions. It's like a complete workout for their critical thinking muscles.
And a huge piece of this is teaching them the difference between closed-ended and open-ended questions. Helping them see that how you ask a question totally changes the answer you get. When you show them how to turn a simple yes or no question like, are hurricanes different from tornadoes, into a big, juicy, open-ended one like, okay, but why are they different? That's a total game changer for their research skills.
And as the teacher, we've got to model this, right? We have to ask those deeper, Socrative questions. A question like this one, what is your knowledge actually based on, forces them to go beyond just spitting back an answer. But here's the really crucial part. After you drop a question like that, you have to be quiet. You have to wait. Research says you need to give them at least 8 to 12 seconds of pure silence. Let them think. Okay, but listen. You can have the best questioning techniques on the planet, but they will absolutely fall flat if the classroom environment isn't right. So, strategy number 2 is all about creating the right culture, because students will not take intellectual risks if they don't feel safe, period.
So what does that environment actually look like? Well, it's a place that's positive and accepting. It's inclusive, it's motivating and engaging. But above all, it's a space where it is safe to be wrong, where it's safe to ask a dumb question or to challenge an idea without being afraid of getting shot down. That is the soil where critical thinking can actually grow. All right, let's bring it all home. When you put these pieces together, your own mindset, empowering student questions, and building that safe environment, the results are, well, they're nothing short of transformative.
And this is the why. This is why it all matters so much. This isn't just about some abstract educational theory. Your students will get more engaged. They'll understand things on a much deeper level, and they'll actually remember it because they owned the process. You'll see this incredible shift from students just passively getting information to actively going out and finding it. This prepares them not just for the next exam, but for college, for their careers, and for dealing with all the Skittles bands they're going to encounter in the world.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Don't feel like you have to go in and change everything all at once. Just think about this one thing. What is one question you can ask tomorrow, maybe of yourself or maybe of your students, that can start this whole transformation? Thanks for joining me for this.